My name is Jon Smith. I am a teacher success manager here at Book Creator. So without further ado, I'd love to share my session. The world is my audience. So let me go ahead and share my screen here real quick. And again, let me just kind of reintroduce myself. My name is Jon Smith, for real. I am the iPod teacher on Twitter. So if you're on Twitter and you want to give me a shout out, great. If not, no worries. I'm also Jon Smith at bookcreator.com. So feel free to reach out to me at either place, anytime. I'm always happy to answer your questions and talk about Book Creator. I taught special ed for 12 years. Mostly fourth and fifth grade, occasionally some sixth graders thrown in there, and every once in a while they threw in a group of kindergarten students, I think just to make sure that I was awake and to kind of keep me on my toes. After that, I was a technology integration specialist for 7 years in a different school district. And now, like I said, I am the teacher success manager here at Book Creator. So lots of webinars, lots of training, sales support, basically anything I can do to help teachers be successful at using Book Creator. That's really what I am here to do. I'm married. I've got 3 kids, 11, 8, and 4. Let's see what else. Oh, I love golf and I love clean cars. So if you have a dirty car and you're anywhere near Ohio, come on over. I'll be more than happy to wash that car for you. So anyway, we're going to go ahead and get started now with this session. Like every good story, my story has a start. And my story starts with these kids right here. And these are my 5th and 6th graders. And I know what you're thinking. They're smiling, they're laughing, they're kind of cute, right? They don't look too bad. But don't let those students fool you, because these students were not happy. They were very rarely smiling, and they were definitely not cute, right? My kids were kind of a mess, if we're being completely honest. And they were just not happy because they had big problems. And the biggest of problems was that they just didn't care. Now, before we get too far, I know what you're still thinking about these kids. These aren't actually my kids. I don't know whose kids these are. These are some random Google kids, but my kids look nothing like this. And like I said, they had big problems. The biggest of which was that they just didn't care, right, about anything. They didn't care about school. They didn't care about math and reading and writing and all that good stuff. But the one thing that they really struggled with was writing. And I didn't understand why they struggled with writing. And it wasn't just a normal kind of struggle with writing. This was a violent hatred towards anything that had to deal with writing. Honestly, most times if we talked about doing any kind of writing activity, I was fearful that something was going to be thrown at me. So I tried to think about this. Why the hatred, right? Why was there such hatred towards writing? And the more I thought about it, the more I realized that even as an adult, I didn't enjoy to write. And so I thought if I could help myself, then maybe I could help my students. And so I started thinking of ways that I could engage my students in this writing process. And so I tried, the writing prompts that were at the end of the book. I tried the daily writing prompts that might be in a journal or something like that. But no matter what I did, the kids hated every single writing prompt that I could give them. And I know this because I tried a lot, right? A lot of different writing prompts. And so, I began pulling my hair out and trying to figure out why this was the case. And so I decided the next time to step up my game a little bit. And so I wanted to give my kids something that maybe they hadn't seen before. And so I went into the kids and I said, hey guys, guess what? Today we're going to write. And they're like, oh gosh, we don't want to do that. And I said, no, listen, it's going to be cool because today I want you to write about the day and the life of a dog. And this kind of looked at me strange. And I said, I want you to talk about everything you do throughout the day from the perspective of a dog. You wake up, you lick your butt. What happens next? And the kids are like, oh, and they're like throwing up in the back of the classroom. And they just weren't excited at all and struck out. So the next day, I decided to try something a little bit different. It happened to be National Pizza Day at that point. And so I thought, oh, cool, we can write about pizza, right? It's everybody loves pizza. Maybe we'll write about our favorite crusts, our favorite toppings, different things like that. And so I went in and asked the kids, and they're like, oh, yeah, cool, we love pizza. We still hate you. and we hate writing. So can you please stop? And so again, kind of struck out. And so at this point, I honestly felt like this boxer right here. I felt like a total failure. And if we're being completely honest, I really just thought I would be best off if I quit my job and moved on to do something else with my life. But luckily, I didn't quit my job at that point. I continued the fight, right, to try to do things, and eventually, I did what every really good teacher does, and I went to the teacher store, and there it was in the back left corner, actually, ironically, right next to the Advil, the holy grail of writing. Right, 730 journal prompts, two for every day of the year. This was it. I was super excited because my students were finally going to be able to find a writing prompt that they enjoy. And so I was excited. And as you can see there at the top left, and I went into the classroom and I was talking about how excited I was. And you can see we've got the eye rolls here. We've got angry Roger Federer down here at the bottom. My kids were not happy about these writing prompts. And I can say that after a while of going through that book, the students actually hated all of them, all 730 journal prompts. And I know that because, again, I went through every single one with them, and they just couldn't stand any of those writing prompts. And so, again, after many years of struggling and trying to figure out why these kids hate school or writing, whatever the case may be, I started to think about different things. And after going to many conferences and listening to other people talk and different things like that, I came up with 3 reasons why I think kids hate writing, or more importantly, why they hate school. And so, number one is that these students, they do all of this work, right, for us. They do all of this writing, all of this math and science, whatever. And when they get done with it, who gets to benefit from that? Who gets to see that work? And in most cases, the answer is you, the audience of one. And honestly, in today's day and age, with kids growing up with a social media following from, the time they're about 5, it seems like, having an audience of just you really isn't good enough. Honestly, most of these kids have 10,000 YouTube followers before we even eat breakfast. But then they come to school and the only person that gets to see it is you. If we're lucky, they might take the work home and stick it on the refrigerator, and then we have an audience of 3 or 4. But for the most part, it's just you. And for these students, that isn't quite good enough. All right, and so the second thing, excuse me, that I realized is that even today, right, even in 2022, we are still not allowing students to collaborate together. We are asking them to keep their eyes on their own paper, do their own work, not sit next to each other, not share. And the kids don't like that, right? They like to work together. They like to collaborate. They like to create things together. And a lot of times they do that everywhere, just not at school. And again, if you don't believe me, take a look at YouTube, take a look at TikTok, look at all the different platforms that these kids are creating content on. And a lot of times they're creating it with their friends in groups, and they're trying to do these amazing things, and just, again, not in school. And then the third thing that I realized is that these students, when they graduate high school or middle school or elementary school or kindergarten or wherever they graduate from, they're not leaving anything behind. There's no legacy being left behind. They might have left some gum under the desk, but that's about it. There isn't work that's being left behind that's going to benefit anybody else. And so, again, something that I began to start thinking about. And again, I struggled, right, for a while trying to figure out what I was going to do about this. And so I kept thinking and kept thinking and kept thinking until one day it hit me, right? Like a ton of books, I should say. I found Book Creator. Now, at the time, it was an app on the iPad only. And I found this iPad app and I started playing around with it. And I realized that this had the potential to be something really, really special. And so I decided to take this idea into my students. And so I went into the class and I said, hey guys, guess what? Today we're going to try something different. And you can imagine the frowny faces that kind of came after that. But I said to him, I said, no, no, I want you to stop your whining because today we are going to write a book. And again, you can imagine what the kids' faces look like. They weren't real excited. They weren't real happy with me. And I said, no, listen, there's more, right? There's more to the story. And so here it is. I said, I've come to the realization that your writing is awful and it probably won't get any better. And the kids just kind of looked at me kind of strange, probably like some of you are. And so I said, so guess what? Today, we are going to write a book and we are going to take that book and we're going to publish it out there for the entire world to see. And the kids, again, started looking at me a little bit strange and they started asking questions, like, well, wait a minute, you said our writing was awful. Why would we write a book for the entire world to read? And I said, well, honestly, because I want the whole world to see how bad your writing is. So then I don't feel kind of like I'm alone anymore in this. And the kids, just kind of looked at me very strange. And then finally, one of my students, probably the worst student that I have ever had in my entire teaching career, raised her hand and said to me, Mr. Smith, now wait a minute, if we're going to write a book for the world and publish it, don't you think we ought to make it good? And right then and there, the light bulb goes off for everyone. It goes off for me, it goes off for my students. We realized something, right? Because the kids were excited. They were pumped about this. They actually wanted to do this. And the reason was that they were going to write this book for somebody other than me. I think they realized, or at least they thought they realized, that with me, I got paid to read their stuff. I got paid to grade it. I got paid to care. But when they sent their books out there to people all over the world and people left comments on Twitter or in the book itself or emailed the teacher, it was because they really wanted to, not because they were getting paid to or because they had to, but because they really wanted to. And so that was really powerful for my kids. And so they were pumped and they were excited. And so we actually started the whole process just like we would in any other writing activity in class, right? We started talking about characters, setting plots, beginning, middle, end, what kind of problems and solutions might there be in our stories and different things like that. And after a while, a couple of weeks, we continued this process and we talked about audience and design. What kinds of things were we going to be able to put into our books? And I'm going to talk a little bit about that later. We also talked about the actual act of writing. And for a lot of my students, that was a very difficult thing for them to do. I mean, some of them couldn't write. They didn't know where the keys were. They couldn't, use their fingers to type the letters, things like that. So this was different for them. But I'd said to them, listen, Book Creator is really cool because there's an option here for a microphone. And so you can actually write with your face. And the kids were like, wait a minute, that's super cool. And I was like, yeah, isn't it? And so for a lot of these kids, they became successful when they hadn't been before. And so this was really, really awesome to them. And, for over the last, over that couple of weeks, we stopped and collaborated and we listened to each other. And eventually, like I said, after about a couple of weeks or so, we had a book and went out on, the kids were excited about this and they wanted to, share it out with the world. And so I went on Twitter and I told people, hey, download our book. Because at the time we had published our books through Apple's bookstore. Now it's all online. You don't even need Apple's bookstore, which is even easier. But at the time, we published our book through Apple's bookstore. And so we had people download our book. I'm on Twitter telling people to download our book. And it was awesome. Right? It was really exciting. And that very first day, I went into class and I said, hey guys, guess what? We had 16 downloads of the book. And the kids were so excited. I couldn't believe the excitement in the room. I mean, you could just see it, right? How pumped they were. And then something happened that really had profound impact on me at the time. A student said to me, Mr. Smith, you said we had 16 downloads of that book. I said, yeah. And they said, that's awesome. Can we go out in the hallway and graph it? And I'm like, wait, time out. I was like, that's math. And it was really cool because the kids were seeing the connections between their book writing, publishing, and then math. And so we went out in the hallway with the rolly paper and we graphed our downloads and made predictions about when we were going to get to 100 downloads and 1,000 downloads and all that stuff. And it was really, really fascinating. And again, you could see the engagement in my students just skyrocketing throughout this whole process. So much so that over the years, my students and I have written and published over 155 books. And again, that's just books through Apple's bookstore. That does not even include the books that we have written on the online version of Book Creator, which is what I am sharing with you today. So this again was a very, very exciting time for my students. Now the downloads are nice, right? Because you can graph them, you can put them in the hallway. Kind of puts a number to this engagement. But it's more than the downloads, right? It's more about the motivation. And I guarantee you that your kids are going to be excited and love this idea of writing books using Book Creator, or publishing those books out to a wider audience. And I think part of the motivation is that excitement around the ability to publish out there for a broader audience. But I also think that something that's really important is that Book Creator is really, really easy to use. And it is so easy to use that I personally have used it with kids from kindergarten on up, and without much instruction. A lot of times they just get the kids on. Once you get them signed in, then we just start playing around with it. And the kids are, like I said, very, very excited. So I encourage you to take a look at Book Creator, and we're going to share it here in just a few seconds. But it's very easy. And as we, believe it or not, roll into year 2 of this pandemic, one of the things that I've realized after talking with thousands and thousands of teachers around the world is that they are still very stressed out. Teachers are stressed out, kids are stressed out, parents are stressed out. And honestly, when everybody's stressed out, easy, if it's an option, is going to be the one that we choose. And Book Creator is super, super easy to use. And again, there's very little time that it takes for students and teachers to pick it up and start using it in amazing ways. So I encourage you to take a look at that. So some final thoughts before I stop talking about my story and just give you a quick little demo of what Book Creator can do. Your students need to be creating stuff. All right. Now, obviously, I would love for it to be books using Book Creator, but your kids need to make their learning. Your kids also need to collaborate. I mean, they do it all the time anyway, right? They do it outside of school. So let's not, why not bring that into school? So allow the kids to work together to create some amazing learning experiences. And then we need to share. And if we don't share, or if the kids can't share, then we should share for them, because we all have a story to tell, especially over this time during this pandemic. Everybody has been affected in one way or another. And so we all have stories to share. So we should share them. And the other thing too is that, like putting the student work on the refrigerator is not, it's not okay, right, anymore. Now, my wife and I actually got into a discussion about this, and she won, and I agree with her now, that it is okay to put the student work on the refrigerator. I have 3 kids, and guess what's on my refrigerator right over there? We have student work. All right. So I certainly understand the importance of being able to put the work on the refrigerator. But with Book Creator, you can take that work and you can put it on everybody's refrigerator. Right. So when you publish that work out there, you can put that work on everybody's refrigerator. And I just think that's way more powerful. So I'm going to leave you with this quote. It's one of my favorite quotes from Rushdon Hurley. When children create for the world, they make it good. When children create only for their teachers, they make it good enough. And again, in today's day and age, good enough just isn't good enough anymore. All right. So thanks. All right. So that is my story and why I think Book Creator has been an important part of my life and the lives of my students.